All right, welcome everybody. My name's Lou Jensen, and this is the weekly gathering of the INA Network. We've been together for pals for a long time, over 30 years, and we're all in some form of a profitable hobby business. We play from an amateur trying to get to a mastery level of something, and we've been using webinars for 8 years consistently, and now we're using the Hangouts for about a year and a half now. And it's great to have everyone who has the time to come and sit in and participate with us tonight. We've got Debbie in, Ed in, Jay's here, Joan's here, Mel's here, and then that other guy from Florida, Ron, is here too. So welcome to all of you. Appreciate you taking your time and come and participate. The saga continues about Lou Jensen and his computer hacking. They are hounding the hell out of me now, trying to get their money out of me, and I refuse to pay them, so it will be interesting to see how things go now. My computer IT guy that gives me quite a bit of help and counsel suggested I just take the computer and return it, which I did this morning. So I'm out of the laptop business for a little while, and I'm going to try and got some ideas about changing. Last night one of you mentioned changing the router for the Wi-Fi unit, and we ordered that, so that'll be coming here in the next little while. We'll get that fixed. So it'll be interesting. I came down and turned the computer on tonight. I've been doing a lot of manual labor all day, trying to build some storage stuff, get some extra room, and I helped Tam out, and I came home, just sat down, fired this computer up, and I was scared to death to open it up for fear that they've found a way to come and slow down this Google Plus side of my life. I just don't understand how they can infect you or take over your life so quickly and so easily anymore. It just feels like such a dangerous situation. My other computer, got 3 guys in my life that kind of helped me with computer issues, and all 3 of them, we've been looking at it and talking about it, trying to firm things up so that it just can't happen with a really serious breakthrough, and losing our, I don't know, integrity of our bank accounts and company business and stuff is just really such a tough issue anymore, because you got to know big companies like Target and Home Depot and all of them that have been hit, even the banks are getting clobbered now. And I read last night on Google Plus after the show that China is just letting a floodgate. Apparently they're teaching their kids how to hack and how to attack the United States, and I'm just sitting back going, "Oh, that feels wicked," because I just don't know if we can stay ahead of them, point that we can protect ourselves. But I've got a really great new idea. I'm going to design a hacking bomb, and I'm going to put it in my computer, and if you try and hack my computer, it's going to attack yours and blow up your life. Does that sound like that ought to? I think that ought to work. There's got to be something in there that you can, instead of just shielding yourself, let's play war. If you want to come after me like that and raise hell with my life, then I'm gonna react in kind. So all the guys.
That's a $1 billion idea.
Isn't that a good one? It's got to be a way to do that. I just think that there's got to be some way of, we kind of know that it shouldn't be coming at us, and so the second that's launched, I'm thinking, well, why in hell can't we attack back? That ought to slow something down, because right now they're on the offensive, and we're totally in reaction mode. I was so discouraged the other night. Spent an hour getting everything all wrapped up on this brand new nifty little computer, and then bam, all of a sudden I don't even have control of it anymore. Pretty frustrating. But since our show last night and our discussion about it, I kind of realized that we're all having issues with it. Everybody is getting hit at one time or another. And I hadn't thought much about the access of a virus or something coming after my smartphone, and that really worries me, because I just love that tool to death. I use it more than I do computers now. And so figuring out how to protect password protect that, got to get that done and taken care of. Just kind of a checklist of things that ought to be taken care of in our lives. And I thought about that as a whole, that security and responsibility in our personal life is just something you can't ever ignore. You get in a car and you don't have your insurance active, or you're driving without a driver's license, or you just never know when out of the blue something's going to happen. They call it an accident for a reason. And if you're not protected or don't have a shield around your life for those kinds of interruptions, then all hell can break loose. And when you're in business, it's the same problem tenfold. When you're in business, they're just automatically like strapping a target on your back that says, hey, here, sue me, I'm in business. Because every attorney is going to think, well, if they're in business, they're rich and they're making money, so therefore we can really go after them. And most hobbyists who are going into business aren't protected hardly at all. We start the hobby and we get something started and we get a few sales and we just kind of let it go at that. And yet in all of my programs, I talk constantly about that degree of protection, with having both the CPA help you with your accounting and your bookkeeping, and also an attorney help you with setting up your business to shield you a little. Most of you could use a homeowner's insurance policy because you're working out of your home. And I can't imagine you've got a home that's uninsured. But you do have to buy a rider on that home insurance to then cover your existing business. And if you're navigating your business without that protection, then you're kind of playing against the odds, because the odds are that at some point in your business career, you're going to have some trouble. You're going to have some things happen that you've never dreamed and never expected. I have a friend of mine that owns a hot tub business in our valley. One of my sons, Chris, worked for him for years, and he does about 10 to 12 million a year in sales here in Utah. Very, very successful. They make those preformed molded bathtubs and shower install units and hot tubs. And I know he runs a good business. He just runs it like two coats of paint. He really is careful with everything. But out of the blue, one of the employees one night took one of the trucks, pickups home with Whitewater logo on the side. Then he put one of the company trailers on to take it home to move a couple of things for himself personally. And on the freeway home that night, he actually hit somebody else on the freeway and killed him. And so because it was the company stuff, they really went after him. Got somebody making a bunch of racket. Who's making some noise? Rod, you got your mic on? Turn the mics off. There we go. There we go. Now we're better. Anyway, here's a guy who tries to run a tight business, thinks he's got everything intact, and then all of a sudden he's got a lawsuit that could threaten his entire company when you have a serious accident that is caused by an employee with the company vehicle. And I know he had protection. I know he had legal insurance and legal protection to help him keep him into trouble. And in those kind of cases, Rod, you're the only one that's got your mic open. Are you aware of that?
My screen's froze up. I can't get into it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, your audio's up. You're making a lot of racket. Can you close your mic down while you're adjusting? Shut your microphone off on your computer.
I'm like, yeah.
Okay. Looks like it's still open. If I shut it for you, then either that or be quiet. It's making an awful lot of noise, and it's making it hard to think. I don't know how the other guys are hearing it, but it's hard for me to. I can't chew gum and think at the same time, so it's hard for the distraction. having learned a lesson or two about insurability and protection and legal issues, as I moved into dentistry, you just did not dare work on a patient without that legal liability backup. You just never know when something's going to go wrong. And you can just almost always count on a lawyer coming after you. Somebody gets the least bit disgruntled about anything. And so that kind of set the stage for when I started in the business. I was doing that. Never had to worry about it up to that moment. So dental insurance, medical insurance is just nasty, extremely expensive stuff. But I don't know a soul that dared practice without that backup in your life, because you could stand to lose everything. About the time I started in practice was when doctors and dentists started forming corporations around their practices, and those are the PPC companies. And so they would form a corporation around their business and then keep their personal assets over here, the business assets over here. That kind of split right down the middle is what helps prevent attacks of all your estate when the business is responsible for something. It's quite difficult to go past the business and come over and attack you personally. Not impossible, but it makes it more difficult. And as we've expanded in the business over this nearly 40 years, we've done the same thing with the company. We've split off this company and made that work this way and made this one work this way. The boys have their machining company, and it's a corporation, and it's worked separately. We're getting ready to start our own bank and have kind of a holding company to take care of the assets on into the future. And we're just putting all of that together now. And I met with my CPA and got a meeting with the attorneys next week, but I just met with the CPA last week, and he's suggesting that we make every reasonable asset a separate limited liability company. So I'm going to take Opportunity Intersection, the book, and I'm going to put up that in a separate LLC. And then every new idea or concept that begins to have some revenue, generate a stream of revenue, will be its own limited liability entity. As I've tried to go with my business over the last 38 years, the best things I've gotten is advice and counsel from those who are managing it and doing it that same way, because there's generally a really important reason to protect thyself. There's just almost nobody out there in the marketplace going to protect you and do it for you, unless it's a computer hacker that says, oh, by the way, I screwed up your computer and I'll turn it back on for $300 or $400 and then I'll take care of it for you from now on. I'm your friend. What do you mean you don't understand what's happening here? I'm going to do this for you. Isn't that a little like what happens in Boston and Chicago? I think that's kind of how that whole thing works. So as we're moving forward with each entity, sometimes we don't think about these kinds of things, and I'm hopeful that that's what happens when we get together as a gang. We're talking about ideas and concepts that we either don't understand or that something brings something up to say, you know what, I've never even thought about that. Something I just didn't even realize was going on out there in the marketplace. And in the long term, this should be a tool that will really, really help our group grow and accelerate in ways with maybe perhaps a little less danger. I wanted to, as we open up our mics and visit now a little bit, I wanted to have each of you, if you have memories of things that didn't go well or things that you can talk about, there might be some things you don't even want to bring up that embarrassing, but if there's something that's happened that's challenged you or put you in an awkward thing, either with your bookkeeping, your business with your Uncle Sam, or with liability issues that are legal problems, let's visit about them for a minute. So anybody got anything you want to comment about first?
Well, I don't know what position everybody's in as far as with their business and the money they're making, but going back a few years, when I was demonstrating at the woodworking shows, um, well, even before then, I was making quarterly deposits to the IRS.
Yeah.
And so I had called the person that did our taxes, and I didn't get to talk to them, but I talked to somebody in the office, and I said, okay, how much money should I leave out and deposit out of this money, because I was making a pretty good chunk of change. And they gave me an amount. And turns out when we had our taxes done, the woman who did our taxes, she said, well, you want the good news or the bad news? I said, well, what's the good news? She said, well, you made a lot of money. I said, well, yeah, we kind of knew that. And my wife said, yeah, he did all right, this past year. She said, you want the bad news? And we looked at each other, my wife and I, and we said, okay, well, what's the bad news? She said, you owe the IRS $10,000. And my wife almost went through the floor. She said, how do we owe that much money? She said, well, you didn't deposit enough quarterly to cover, she said, even with all those expenses he had, she said, yep. Well, fortunately, we had the money. We could write out the check.
Yeah.
But if you're making quarterly deposits and your income is such that you have to make quarterly deposits, make sure you're depositing enough to cover yourself. Because a lot of people wouldn't be able to write out that $10,000 check. And it was a tough one to take and swallow, because that hurt. So make sure you deposit enough to cover your taxes.
The biggest word in all of dentistry that I think is so effective in business is called prevention. And what Ron's talking about is preventing trouble with Uncle Sam instead of waiting till the last damn minute and you get clobbered. It's so much better to do it monthly, even weekly, especially when you start moving into payroll issues. If you've been around me long, you know I'm just death on on employees. I just don't think you should hire anybody to help you in a business like this. There's just really no good reason to do that and get caught in payroll taxes and all the forms and everything else you got to do with Uncle Sam when you're an employer. But doing it as a business, even if you don't have a lot of any substantial income, every one of you should be writing off every damn dime you can find to write off, because you're in enough business that if you're in that kind of business and you file as a business, if you go out to dinner tonight and you talk about your business, that dinner should be an expense. And when you use so much of your vehicles and you use so much of your home, there's just one damn write-off after another, and yet you've got to be on legal ground to do that, play that game. The long arm of the IRS is just not something that any of you really want to tangle with. Anybody else had any near misses or anything's going on in the same category? Mel, you've never had anything like this show up, have you? Can't hear you.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. When I had my custom leather business as a hobby business, I got audited one year, and it was quite interesting. That was a year that I won a $1,000 scratch-off ticket and claimed a gambling loss of $1,000. And had other, tools and equipment and materials and all that I claimed.
Yeah.
And the auditor was an interesting fellow.
Mhm.
Every weekend, I'd go to a country western nightclub and just have the time of my life. And he claimed a lot of that is advertisement, attending Western cultural affairs.
R&D, huh?
Yeah,
Research and see what
research, development, and advertising.
Oh man, I wish you had him out here where I could access that same guy. That's really fun.
Yeah, that was in L.A. and it was quite interesting. So we walked out of it as a wash. I
Good,
didn't know them; they didn't know me.
good. That's how you like it. That's exactly
Yep.
what you want. Now I preached a lot. I wrote off my Corvette, and I don't know of a dentist on the face of the earth been able to write off a hot rod. And it's just not likely to happen because dentist has no business excuse to own a car like that. And how I did it was get in front of everything. I planned on buying the car. I kind of knew when it was coming, and for 2 years ahead of time, I did Corvette car shows. I did articles in magazines with Corvettes. I got McMullen Publishing involved, and I did a few ads with them. And so I just did everything right around the front end of having a Corvette. And I said, oh, by the way, I got to have a Corvette for this part of my business. And I literally, I wrote the whole stupid thing off. And I've not had, I got to knock on wood here because I don't want to ever have trouble, but in all my 40 years of business, I've never had the IRS coming in the door raising hell with me, and I've written off the moon. But I always use a CPA to do it. I don't dare just fill out my own taxes. You just, after a certain point of income, you're really foolish if you're doing your own tax stuff.
Yeah, they don't contact you face to face. They send you a letter and invite you to a meeting.
And would you want to go to that meeting alone or without a little bit of smarts walking in the door with you?
Well, you definitely got to be quick-witted or have a good CPA that says, I did it, it's all my fault.
Or else a bulletproof vest on you that can handle any kind of barrage, because there's too many of them don't play fair. They have the upper hand completely. And man alive, it's just, yeah, you want to have every tax advantage that a small business that gives to all of us legally, but you just don't want to bend the law to get yourself to a point where they can start coming after you. And then once they audit you, then they stay auditing you for a while after that, and that's even worse, I've heard.
They keep a watch on you.
Keep an eye on it.
Hey, Lou, can I
raise a flag?
Yeah, Jay or Ron?
Yeah, can I tell you a story about a friend of mine? He was in the steel erection business and some other things, and he used to write off his leases on his automobiles, which was fine, but he got audited, and he got audited every year for about 5 years. And they called him in every year, and he just got sick and tired of it, but they didn't stop. And they disputed his, said, well, you use your vehicle for personal things too. And it was all broken down, he said, as far as, what he figured was personal and what was business. But the IRS came to his house, and he wasn't there. And they requested to see his checkbooks. And his wife said, called Dave up, and Dave said, well, show him. I had nothing to hide. Well, the IRS agents took his checkbook out of the house and back to their office. And Dave said, they did what? And he called his attorney, and attorney says, I will guarantee you this is the last time you get audited for many, many years. And he said, why? He said, they can come into your house, and they can, if they have they can look at whatever they want, but they are not allowed to take anything out of the house. So when the attorney got into the IRS office and kind of threw the book at him, you know, case point and amendment and this and that and everything else, they dropped the audit, and he hadn't been audited since.
So a bad moment turned into a good thing for him in the long run. But
yep.
But again, that doesn't usually happen either. I only hear horror stories. I don't ever hear anybody one-upping the IRS, ever.
If you move interstate, pay your state taxes in the state that you left. Because if you don't, they'll put a lien against you, and then you got to get that cleared off by contacting them and saying, hey, what do you want? Oh, we want a tax form filled out for this particular year. Well, I did that a couple times and neglected to
keep up with it.
File a form. And I filed the form, and I wound up getting money back. They had the money in the system, didn't know where it went, is what it was.
That's what it was.
But to avoid any unnecessary heartache or anxiety, file your forms in the state you left and state you're...
File the forms and take care of your receipts, and do a monthly envelope that has your business receipts and expenses in it. Just put it in the envelope right off the month, and then just keep those in the sequence of 12, and then you're ready for your taxes each year. And it's so much easier to do a little bit along the way than it is to try and ramrod all of the half of April trying to get ready for the 15th. So it took me a while to get the sequence of where that needed to be done. And after I reached the point where I could hire somebody to do it for me, that was just awesome. That was just the best possible avenue. But in between the time of a small business to something that's beginning to finally produce some decent revenue for you, the tax advantage of being in the business here is the real strength of a hobby into a business kind of format. But don't not play it legally. Don't try and just ignore the fact that you're out there generating revenue and not keeping track of things. You just never know when you're going to cross somebody's path that can basically either turn you in or tip off the IRS that you're doing underhanded things, and that's just nasty stuff that really gets people into trouble. And over our many years, we've had a few that have tried to do that or just ignored it, take the money and run, and then when they're in trouble is when they call me after the roof's caved in, and it's usually really difficult to help people in that circumstance because there's just if you haven't bothered to defend yourself or protect yourself, then you're just wide open. I don't see how you could play this game and not write things off. That seems really short-sighted to me. Most of the masters are far enough into this now, they've got lots of good ways of writing things off because there's so much of that involved in normal living. So don't not take advantage of it, but be sure and get it into a legal format. Any other questions or comments? I hate to talk about such sour notes, but I finally got some sleep last night, but I was angry even when I woke up. It's been pounding nails and cutting boards all day, so I could take it out with a hammer. That worked out pretty good. Any other commentation? Anybody else got a question or anything that's related?
Yeah, I'm going to change the conversation a little bit.
Do it.
Don't be afraid to try anything new, because fear is what stops you from going forward. Just because you haven't done anything before doesn't mean that you cannot do it.
And that fits in what categories? What are you specifically shooting at?
Oh, that's working with wood, working with crystal, working with uh, glass, leather, whatever, in the engraving or blasting business. Don't be afraid. Just do it.
I was putting a thing together with Word today. I do a lot with Microsoft Word, and I'm quite good at using Word. And I'm going to make I got a pattern to do this weekend for the university, and it's a really kind of a challenging piece of artwork. But I'm going to go through and do it myself. And I've pulled in Craig and James Jensen, our other masters, to kind of help me work on this profile of the head. And I remember when there was a time when I couldn't do that kind of thing. It was beyond my skill. I just had never done it before, didn't know the first thing about it. Working with the photoresist and getting your patterns ready, you got to have a certain kind of thing. And one of the first things that came up was a plate, a carving I did for the National Boy Scout Committee for Louise Mandrell, Barbara Mandrell's sister. And they sent me her photograph and asked me to render it in a carving and engraving on the plate. And I had to learn. And I had to learn pretty fast because it needed to be done and done well. So I asked Craig to help me, but then I worked at learning how to do what he had done to help, because I didn't have the eyes quite right, and I didn't know what to do with the nose, and didn't know how to render the mouth. Most of us can handle profiles and outlines and symmetry quite well, but some of the details get really, really tricky. But if you do a little bit more of it, the odds are you're going to be able to figure it out. How many of you have used that portrait scroll sawing book that Tammy has on the website? I think they still sell it, don't they? So that picture portraits where they teach you how to take a photograph and turn it into a line drawing, high contrast image. One of John Wayne that have used for so many years, comes from that one book. And the whole idea is for scroll sawing, but it's to show you how to take an actual photograph and turn it into a line drawing or a high contrast image. Now Photoshop will do that for you. You can take Photoshop and just hang it out. I think it's called scroll sawing patterns, Ed.
Okay.
Tammy, it's a green cover book. Tammy knows exactly which one it is, so you can ask her about it. It's really, really good for solving those problems. And in sandblasting, there's just all these kinds of circumstances. Now I'm going to build the university. I ordered the crystal today. It'll be here tomorrow. And it cost me more to ship it than the cost of the glass because I had to have it fast. So I'm going to bill the extra shipping to the university. Then I'm going to bill them for this extra artwork graphic part that I've got to do. And then I'm going to charge my normal hourly rate to produce these pieces. So it's going to be a really decent order again all of a sudden. But it's going to some really powerful lady from Norway. Is going to be here Monday for a special tour of the university. And so Pete told me, he says, well, with the new university president, if this goes over well, he says, you'll probably be doing quite a few more of these. And I said, yeah, I think that would be really, really good. So you don't start out doing those kinds of jobs. What I'm going to be doing is a little bit of a challenging blast, but it's still within range, like Mel said. No reason not to take it. Take it on. Have you found anything yet, Jay, that you can't do or don't dare do? You seem to have a pretty daring personality. You'll figure it out somehow too. Is it all come with this?
Right now, the one thing I don't dare do is portraits.
Okay.
Portrait style pictures.
They're tough.
Yeah, I just, especially with the engraver and stuff, and I'm just not, not comfortable doing them. I work with it here at home, trying to get used to it, but I just haven't got to that point yet.
Debbie, have you done any portraits, pictures of people? She's pretty good at painting them. Do you engrave them too?
I don't
usually do people either. I do animals. They're much better for me. Engraving on I engrave animals, the cows and horses and things like that, but not people yet. I haven't tried that.
You all know to not tackle a straight-on face, don't you?
Yep.
Yep. Stick to profiles and slightly turned faces because it's a little easier than coming right straight at it. I still
Really?
Yeah, really. Except if you're doing Mel. If you're doing a copy of Mel, then you can just, it doesn't matter.
Okay, what's the problem with attacking straight on portraits there, Doc?
It's basically very difficult to render the depth, the perception of depth. Because if you look at the difference between the distance from your forehead to your nose and then back to your throat, there's a lot of distance here. Except you got to render it flat and somehow make it look like it still has that depth to it, and it's just a challenge. You do a deer, if you got a deer's face straight on, or a cow, can you imagine on a cow's face, Debbie's got to render its nose here and its ear clear back here, and yet somehow draw it in a flat image is really, to me, that's the hardest thing there is in art, a good face straight on.
But what you can do is take a photograph. I used a color photograph that was sent to me. Turned it to black and white.
Yeah.
And that gave me my shadows that I needed. And that's what I engraved on the back of this gentleman's car. And he wanted it to be a memorial to his son, who had passed. And I did it at a car show. And his wife never rode in that car because she sat in it, looked back at the image, and it spooked her.
Really? Looked too much like him.
Yep, because the eyes followed her, and she just,
See, Mel's been an undiscovered Rembrandt his whole life, so he would dare do that.
I've just been undiscovered.
Yeah, largely because he's in a place where he can't be found, and he doesn't want to be found.
No, Mel's been discovered, but he just don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, that's probably true. I think it's interesting how most artists have some things they're still hesitant about. So taking Mel's advice tonight, it comes up on the web constantly, is to do the things you actually fear the most, to go right at them. And part of my writing lately has tried to go in the direction of your problems. I found in my own kids, what I've tried to help them learn is that you don't avoid or dodge your problems. It's really helpful to go right at them. And the sooner you tackle them and go after a solution for problems, the more likely you are to be able to solve it or overcome it.
And you can solve most of them by dissecting the problem into small steps.
Just grab them. Just go right at them.
Okay, you can do steps 1, 2, and 3. Well, once you get those done, that leads into steps 4, 5, and 6, which you can figure out. There's still small steps.
Yeah.
And 7, 8, and 9 are, just 3 more little steps, and by the time you hit step 10, you're finished.
You got it. And between the backup of all of us being able to access all of us at some point and get a little help and a little pointers and a little advice, oh gosh, we got some serious support under just everybody. No matter what you're tackling here, we've had somebody that's gone through the experience you're thinking about going through. And the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. It happens with every element here.
Well, I know, like at the bike rallies and stuff, it's like one of the biggest challenges that I have there is people wanted me to take a picture of their favorite tattoo and converting that over and putting it on a bike part for them.
Yeah.
Some of those can get real challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of them are really got a lot of value the shading of how they do with tattoo now is quite a bit more aggressive than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And to engrave
Especially
that
trying to get them to,
be tricky.
especially trying to get them lay down on that Xerox machine. It,
I hear you. It says,
I got a bad visions there.
Now I know why Mel puts a massage table in his
I got that figured out too. It just dawned on me what he's been doing all these years. No wonder I should have done more shows with Mel. It sounds like he's had a lot of fun.
they can be interesting.
Interesting.
I guess I've blown every aspect of the portraits that you're talking about.
How do you mean, Mike?
Where you've got one of my portraits I did of you.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. It's the hardest one in the world to do, straight on. It's just so challenging to make it look really good. And so I try to avoid it. I will make him see how my head is turned at an angle right now. That's about as far as I'll try and render. And if I can get a profile, that's usually easy. And profiles, that's why cameos, all cameos are the side view. It's a hell of a lot easier to engrave the side view than it is to come at it straight on.
Question there, Doc.
Yeah.
Jay was talking about tattoos were the hardest for him to do at the bike shows. I was just wondering, is it possible for him to get a book that they sell to tattoo artists or whatever, and then he would have, specific tattoos that he could practice on and then be more adept in doing those, or is that something that's not really that good of an idea?
No, there's quite a few magazines out now. You can get the magazine for not too much money, and they'll have different variations of artwork. You want to pick out really simple line drawings to begin with. But I think what Jay's next best thing, what kind of phone do you have, Jay? Have you got your smartphone yet?
Yeah, I've got one of the threes.
Okay. There's some really good stuff in there where you could literally shoot the tattoo with the note and then take it in and try and work with the pattern in the editing function of the picture.
Well, a lot of it too, I know what you're talking about. There are sheets that you can buy that tattoo artists get, to make up their catalogs or whatever. But some of these tats you see at these bike shows, they are custom one-of-a-kind tats that
really
a lot of these guys, have designed themselves and gone in and had the tat work done, and then they want to put that over onto their bike or something like that. So some of them are strictly one-of-a-kind.
What I would do is ask them if they want something done. I would try and get that business, and I think I'd photograph and say, listen, let me work up some things and see what I can do. If I can do a decent rendering for you, I'll get in touch with you, and then we'll go ahead and do it. Because Keith taught me to practice on scrap that you can throw away until you can get it down. And so you can practice it on a cheap piece of glass or mirror, and then try and see if you can get it to where it works there, and then move it over onto metal later. But I think if you're getting a lot of requests for it, you really ought to. I've always felt like the tattoo business is kind of like the wine bottle engraving stuff, that there's a lot there. Tattooing now is just super popular.
And they also have, in the tattoo magazines in the back, I've seen where you can buy actual books of tattoos to, if you're going to start your business like what we're doing here, whereas you have books to help us do artwork like animals and stuff like that. Tattoo artists have books that they can actually buy that shows a lot of tattoos, and they, flash art or whatever, and so that that might be something he might want to look at too. The
airbrushing world, airbrushing is really big. I think airbrushing is every bit as big as tattoo, and they have all of their training books of how to airbrush anything as well. So it's more of if that's the focus of what you want to develop with your business, there's got to be a ton of resources out there to begin how to
Jay, do you care
Yeah.
to take your laptop and your Xerox machine with you?
Yes.
Okay. Take a picture of get a good photo of the tat. Download it into your computer. Bring it up in your Corel where you can adjust it, and shoot it over to your copy
Printer.
machine. Print a copy of it, and show it to the guy. See where he wants it tweaked.
Oh yeah, that's what I do. You know, I'll bring it up, get it down to the size. So like if he wants it on a derby cover, I'll get it down to the size that it'll need to be for that. Print it out. It automatically prints out in black and white for me.
Exactly.
You know, so I don't have to worry about that. And then, you know, I let them kind of help me, you know, tweak it however they want, you know. And then depending on, you know, how the shading or shadowing goes on, it depends on how deep I actually cut into the cover. Whether I just kind of, you know, brush that chrome a little bit, or if I go down to the nickel, or if I go all the way to the copper, or whatever.
Well, you got it pretty much covered.
It's almost like doing an MU egg.
Yeah.
You know, with the MU egg, you know, you have different layers of color. Where you have the same thing on a derby cover too. You have different layers.
Mm-hmm.
What I would encourage you to do this winter, Jay, is get hold of your schools or colleges in the area. Find someone around you that teaches pen and ink drawing. Pen and ink drawing is what allows you to take tattooing and render anything. If you learn to crosshatch and you learn to stipple and you learn what all those textures and shading tactics are, that's exactly what they're doing with tattooing, but it's identical to pen and ink artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would really open up some tremendous doors for you. So, sounds like a fun place to go play around. Have you done any pen and ink, Debbie? No, we lost
Yes.
Joni.
Yes, I have.
Fun, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I enjoy it.
Were you taught or did you teach yourself?
I learned myself
Hmm.
from high school, but I basically taught myself.
Mm-hmm.
I would buy books and read them and do my own thing.
So the power pen.
That's how I've done most everything.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
high-speed drill is just exactly like a quill tip pen.
Yep, absolutely.
Except it cuts. Yeah. That's his ace in the deck. It really is good for all of that.
Yep.
Joni's done quite a bit of pen and ink work.
Has she? I don't remember seeing any of her pen and ink. How about you, Ron? Have you done some?
No, I haven't done any pen and ink work. I'm still working on doing sketching.
Well, I sure like the sketching now. If you've never learned to draw, it seems to me that now's a good time to start learning. Drawing is the basis of all art, and it just facilitates your eyes and your hand coordination. You do a little bit all the time. Instead of watching the news and getting all, I have a Bill O'Reilly get you all upset, just start drawing and sketching while he's ranting and raving, and you'll be fine. And gradually you'll get better and better and better at it. Mel's digging up something he's just got to show us.
Well, I took a class here at the local college.
Yes, sir. Look at that. Okay, hold it right there. Hold it for a second. I want to capture it. There we go, right there. Oh, yeah. Good, good, good.
Well, let's get the
Signature.
autograph on it, too.
Yeah, there we go. Now we got it. Okay, bud, we got it. And isn't it interesting? These that I capture show up on my computer now. They'll be on my phone and my laptop.
That one was a set of leaves that he had laying off on a desk.
Yeah.
And you start out pen and ink with pencil.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked did I do this freehand? And I said, yeah. Well, it's a scroll work. I mean,
Sure.
you just
move it
practice
from
on your
there.
swirls.
I did so much on guns and knives, and that's when I moved that similar kind of design over to eggshells. I call it my gun scroll, and it's the #1 pattern that I've used over the years. It's
Yeah,
done a ton of that.
and this one's just messing around.
Messing around. Look how good that is. Perfect.
Yeah, I do a little bit upon occasion.
The big thing there is then is daring to do it, isn't it, Mel?
Exactly.
Just tell yourself you're going to learn exactly what
You can
you're
do
talking about.
Don't be frozen in your tracks by what if or maybe.
And in our circle sharing stuff, I don't know of anybody that picks on somebody new. Aren't we largely pretty helpful with new people? We kind of know that we got to be a little careful of, we don't want to just hammer you in the ground like some art schools and art programs and art teachers are.
Oh yeah. Don't
ruthless.
ever tell somebody that, well, you got to do it this way.
Yeah.
That's BS.
When somebody's coming along,
Because I'm self-taught.
Yeah, I think we all are.
I've never taken any of your courses in Utah, but I've pretty much tackled everything there is.
Yeah, everything we've done.
And you just, not afraid to do it. Yeah, it's just step 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you're done. Wow.
How about if you want to learn to cut and shape stainless steel, though, Mel?
Hey, not a problem.
It can be learned.
I got a special little saw.
I'm waiting for Mel to put out the book and the video on how to shape and cut steel so I can learn.
And okay, I'm going to pull. There are 12 saw blades in my fingers.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
It's like a scroll saw blade.
Kind of like a coping saw blade.
Coping saw. Mm-hmm.
Because it fits into this frame.
Okay.
And I don't know if I can. There, you see the saw blade going across my forehead?
Yeah, right there.
That's a jeweler saw, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, when I did jewelry back in 2011 and 12 in my one of my classes, I made some jewelry, and that's one of the things that we used constantly was a jeweler saw, and those saw blades that you're talking about right there.
So you cut your steel that way?
Pardon?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a beginning jewelry class as an elective, along with pottery, drawing. There were several different types of artwork, and one of them was jewelry, beginning jewelry class, and I took it for a semester, and I made some really nice pieces, rings, a necklace, a couple of earrings, and all that stuff I sent to my mom and dad. I made one ring for my dad and the earrings, and there was 2 earrings I made out of copper for my mom, and then I made a necklace and earrings with silver with a colored stone in the middle, to make it like a set. And I had a really good instructor.
You've got the basics. You got the how-to. You can make copper jewelry and engrave the hell out of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you really can. That's a fun surface to cut. It's actually even a little soft.
Yeah.
But it cuts it like crazy. But you can find a blank, too. Now, there's a couple of ways. Tammy likes antique stores, and I don't mind them, so we go there a lot. And now with your phone, when you're going through, man, you can pick off ideas so damn quick with your phone now. And when you see things that have been done 30, 40, 80, 200 years ago, cut, carve, engrave. They did so much of that in those eras that there's a lot of sources for artwork. There's a lot of sources for ideas. I don't see how you can walk through an antique store and not come out with just a treasure trove of concepts and ideas that probably be something you could now engrave or sandblast or airbrush.
Get brain overload.
Yeah, brain overload. but the garage sales every weekend are a similar kind of thing. You can't stop at most pretty aggressive garage sales or flea markets and not get all kinds of materials that you could practice on. And Keith and I used to do that just to see if we could learn to engrave something we'd never done before, just to kind of push each other and see who could do
Hey,
what.
Lou.
Yeah.
Here, and just talking about different stuff, something popped in my head for Ed, or for anybody. You just mentioned, Ed doesn't have the room, he says, and that's fine. We understand that, and we all work through that. But Ed, if you know people who are having garage sales, those little glass stones that they make, Ed, you buy them at Michael's, engrave a person's name on them. Ken Brown does that, and he charges $5 a piece for them, and you can buy them by the bag full, for cheap. The other thing is ID tags. You can buy them for like 7 cents a piece, the metal ID tags. Find somebody who's having a garage sale and ask if you can sit there, and people come up, find something to do to
What
keep
are
the
you
drill
doing?
going, and sit at somebody's garage sale and start doing stuff and sell them to the people for $4, $5, $6 a piece just to get known and to make a couple bucks. You'd be surprised,
Okay.
I bet, how much you can make.
Let's, if you dare, Ed, and I'm not trying to push you much here, but we're trying to help. If you could
Right.
rate, how's your handwriting? From 0 is a klutz to 10 is Ken Brown, immaculate handwriting. Where would you put your handwriting?
Probably, I've had several compliments on my cursive handwriting, so I would say probably in the neighborhood of a 7 or 8.
7 or 8. See,
That's just normal
great.
cursive handwriting. If I take my time and I'm real slow with it, I could probably improve on it. But yeah, I've always had real good handwriting.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. For those kinds of quick little deals where you're doing name tags or you're doing those little pebbles, they're glass filler stones. They're colored, and Michaels and Hobby Lobby sells them in those bags. They're like little fish.
Looks like Roderick's holding some up there.
Oh, there's Rod's got some right there.
So does a dollar store.
And they're
Okay.
just stuff they put in the bottom of these jars to put flowers and display flowers in. So they're just loose in there.
Find dollar
That's
store,
what they-
Walmart, pet stores, just about anywhere.
Everywhere. And what you do is just have a few of those around, and it's helping you to learn to engrave, and you just do one for their name. Now, I use those at shows, and I would put their name on it and give it away, but I was trying to attract them to come and see what I was doing, and then I'd have them and me carve that leaf set in the wood. But I was trying to then sell a system. But we all use those little glass marble stones. I wouldn't even dare guess how many Ken Browns engraved of those over the years. Ron, would you?
Oh,
Just
thousands upon thousands of them.
Yeah. Because all he has to do is just sit
I
down and
glue,
cut it out and nothing flat.
I glue magnets to the back of them
Wow.
and
Good idea.
write the kid's name on it and highlight it with gold leaf rubbing buff and sell it for $3 or $4, and it's a refrigerator magnet.
See, and then they get home and then discover the guy that engraved that magnet on the refrigerator, that's the guy in the picture we saw at the post office, Mama.
Yeah, check it out.
The same guy, I'm sure of it.
His name was Charlie.
I was
Okay, if I do that, if I start doing that now and they see my picture in the post office,
Yeah.
What do
You're
you
going to
think
have
about
to come up
this?
to Utah or to North Carolina and hide out.
Move in a hurry and hide out. That's why we're in
We got
Utah and
We got a
Carolina.
bunch of woods here.
Okay.
I sat on the front porch at Halloween 2 years in a row, and
Scared everybody, did you?
yeah, I scared them away. I didn't even have to put a mask on, but I engraved those little stones, put them in a little mesh bag that my wife, she found a place to buy the little mesh bags, engraved the kid's name on, filled it with gold, put it in a bag with my business card, and handed them and just gave them away.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
there's no
Good
reason.
idea.
There's no reason if you're at a garage sale you can't get $3 a piece for them. Ken Brown had people who hired him to do birthday parties where they paid him $100 an hour to sit at a birthday party and engrave the glass stones for people at a kid's birthday party.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's just no end there, no end, and it's a good place to begin.
Yeah, and check your dollar store for glassware, these marbles. Cause I was at one earlier today getting stuff, and they had those flat marbles, a gazillion of them in a bag for $1.
Okay.
That's what
I'll
they
start
are.
looking then.
They're marbles that have been heated and they just sag, isn't it? What we're talking about?
Yeah.
That's all they are. So that works great. We all kind of play with them a little bit. They're a lot of fun to have around. A lot of fun. Yeah. We're going to get ready to wade into fundraising because I do right after the first of the year. I want to do a course, and I'm going to try and help Mel get his business started down there around that university with this fundraising angles that I've done. And I'm going to take several shows to try and introduce all of you because there's
You mean Ed?
Yeah, Ed. Well, I'm going to get Ed started first, but then I want to I'm going to use him as the guinea pig, and then we'll see if we can make it work and then spread it out into the direction of those that want to try and come play with it too, because it's just so strong. It's just an ideal thing to get into because almost no one else can chase you into this kind of a business, and that's really a powerful advantage. Invariably, if you're helping organizations raise money, church groups and civic organizations, you're helping them raise money, you're going to be playing with the top end of the social economic slice of the pie in the process of that, and then they see and meet you and begin to build relationships. So there's a lot of reasons to do it. It's a very, very powerful segment. It's practically my whole business now. So, all right, any other questions out of anybody?
I've got a question.
Yeah, Rod, go for it, bud.
Are we off air?
No.
No.
Okay, I've got something I want to ask you off air.
All right, I'll stop the broadcast. You'll have to stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, to find out.
He'll really be on the post office wall in Kansas.
This is top secret. Catch you next week, everybody. Good night.